This one only is, oof, this is the one and only Despotic. Bring you guys another gameplay commentary. This is I've been meaning to make this video for a week now on what it is that I'm testing, what I'm using currently, and just playstyle, like Templar playstyle in general. And it's good that I didn't do the build, because I saw Lily Lopper's light armor 1vx video, and it was good. I liked it, man. I really enjoyed it. I'm still waiting to see another video. Then I will eventually concede that you know, light is viable, but it's viable in a particular situation. You have to be a particular player to run light. So I just want to show you guys some of the sets that I've been testing, and also the setup that I just put on today. I just put on today, and you'll see. So let's get to what I've really been testing. And I'll show you guys. So this, I'll talk to you guys about this later, because this right here, whew, I farmed this. I think I streamed it, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks ago, because I needed a Rattlecage, and I'll point out to you why I need Rattlecage, or why I needed Rattlecage. I had Rattlecage on the PS4, but PC I just didn't have it. So I've been testing Overwhelming with heavy impreg, and pretty much the same setup that I posted in my build video, but instead of Overwhelming, I was running Wizards and Scoria. And Overwhelming is particular, right? If you're a new Templar, then, especially if you're not accustomed to open world, like you would view Overwhelming as problematic. You would view it the same way a lot of players who use Fury view Fury. Like, they don't know the benefit of it because they're not in a long fight. And if you're a Magic Templar, your goal is to be in a long fight, right? You have really good sustain, be it heavy, be it light. You have really good ways to reset a fight. The thing that you struggle with is to go seamlessly between offense and defense, and like, therein lies the problem as to why you don't see a lot of players being able to solo this. But Overwhelming comes in handy when you're in a long fight and you're casting a lot of your class abilities, especially this rune, and it procs, and it does a lot of damage. It's just the base stats alone, right? If you just look, if you look at the base stats alone, you automatically get you know, 258, right? 258. So you know, you're pretty much solid. And then when you activate a class ability, you have a 15% chance to surround yourself with it. And this can proc on multiple players. This has happened to me where, you know, it just procced and then it just procced again. And it's also buffed by, the lightning staff. It's buffed by, because I've tested it, right? But if you take a look, if you use, I tested. If you use the Inferno Staff, it is not buffed. If you use a Lightning Staff, it is buffed, and that's because of this passive here, Ancient Knowledge. So, equip a Lightning Staff, increases your damage done with Area of Effect ability. And apparently this counts as an Area of Effect ability, Overwhelming. So it's really good, and it's damage that you're not doing. And it's worked for me. I've X'd with this setup a lot, and so if anyone's you know, if you're a veteran Templar, you're just a veteran Xer, then I think this set is more for you. But if you're not in situations where you're outnumbered a lot, then you won't really know the benefit of this set. So it's all up to you. It's up to you. It's your personal preference, right? And then I'll talk a little bit about playstyle. Like you see a lot of Templars, and you hear this recently. You've been hearing it. In the past you didn't hear it, because I think those Templars understood, and I'm speaking about, well, both Stam and Magicka. A Templar is not an area of effect class. It's a single target dot, except for reflective light, and that's the morph I use, and I've said why I use this morph, because it hits 3 people, and the duration is a lot. It's how many seconds? I think it's 7 seconds, right? So if you're in your front bar and you activate this, and you're using Scoria, then Scoria has a better chance to proc on your front bar versus Vampire's Bane, where it's 11. I think it was 14.4 seconds. So that's why I use reflective light, right? It targets more than it targets multiple players, and the duration is shortened, and it also gives you crit, right? But both of the morphs give you crit. So that's why, you know, that's why I use it. But like I was saying, so a lot of players think like you're going to kill a player with massive damage, and you won't, because I'll show you a set that I was testing. So I was using Innate Axiom and Julianos, right? I had great stats, massive damage, just great crit and heavy, and I just couldn't. You weren't bursting players down. You killed them slightly faster than if you were using a set that's not heavily, you know, focused on damage and crit. You're not bursting anyone down. This is a class it's a burst setup, right? That's one of the reasons why I run Meteor, not because of the like, to me, Meteor it helps with your burst, because this class lacks burst potential. That's what it helps with, and it's also something that players have to respect. You know, the moment you drop Meteor, if they don't block it, they're getting hit with it, and it's an area of effect ability as well. So that's the reason I use Meteor. It's not so much, and a lot of players ask me this, right? Why don't you use Bat Swarm? I'm actually using Bat Swarm now, but I just feel as if I want to target one player outnumbered, that's my focus. 1vxing is not about killing multiple players at the same time. 1vxing is, in a nutshell, how best you can get players in a 1v1 when you're outnumbered. So you're using line of sight, using all these intangibles that a lot of players just don't have, right? So the playstyle is not inherently damage, right? You can pull off damage, you can do that, but at the end of the day, I think players need to understand damage won't. It's an accumulation of what you're hitting these guys with. That's how a Templar playstyle is. You can't get away from that, right? It's not like you get hit with an Incap and then a Spectral Bow and you're done. The class just doesn't function that way, and I think the moment players get away from that mindset, then it's different. Now, if you're in a dueling situation, you don't have to worry about line of sight. You don't have to worry about kiting. You don't have to worry about you know, hits to your stam from multiple players. Like, those things, you worry about them, but it's not at that level. And that's why I've always said open world is probably solo open world is, to me, right now the highest form in terms of skill. And that isn't to say players aren't skillful. It's just, it's getting harder and harder to X out here, and it's becoming even more problematic and more difficult. So let's continue. I want to talk about this setup right here. So this is Shackle, right? I'm sorry. This is I'm always thinking of Shackle. This is Rattlecage, right? And like my thing around Rattlecage, and I've tested. I have a few gameplays with it. My thing about Rattlecage is that when you're outnumbered, right? This is why the change to crystal frags, where they took away the CC component, really slowed down a Sork's burst, right? Of course, Rune Prison came about, but if you told a Sork from, you know, prior to the nerf, if they would choose Rune Prison or the CC from crystal frags, a majority of them would choose the frag CC, because what it does is it shortens your kill. It shortens the burst time. It shortens your kill potential. It increases your chance to land more burst, right? And when you're outnumbered, this fact that you have to switch to this bar to activate, you know, a buff, and just the animation with this structured entropy or what have you, right? This little time can be used on other things. So what I had done was I went heavy impreg, heavy. So I went with rattle here, and then, you know, rattle on the body. I mean on the jewelry. Then I went impreg. I think I was either going Shadow Rend or I was using Scoria. And what I did was, instead of using structured, what I did, I put total dark. I'm sorry. I put total dark right here, right? I made it a defensive ability. So there are only a few things that I'm doing, right? And I'm also being offensive. So you know, pop total dark in them. So you're being defensive and offensive at the same time and having better benefits. And I think it's a really good setup. It's just, I mean, there's a setup that I won't say. It's just a really good setup, man. And I caught a lot of players. They didn't know what to do. They were somewhat confused, because I would go back bar, pop total dark. Now I'm defensive, and then I go offensive, and it's just turn and burn. So if anyone's thinking about it, I'm testing it. It's viable. Just trying to figure out how I would use it, because I'm testing light right now, and as you can see, this is what I'm testing. So I went with Pariah. Pariah is ultimately a better. I know a lot of players use Brass. Pariah outperforms it in every way. Brass is the worst damage, the worst defensive set in the game, right? They will just blow through it. And here's my logic, right? On a Templar, I think Brass is even worse. Open world, I'm not talking about dueling, but open world, it's even worse, because at 66% you've already maxed out this increase, and this gives you, I know it's not upfront resistance, but this gives you 5%. It gives you 5k more resistance than Brass, right? And then let's say a Nightblade hits you with a fracture. This still goes over the the cap. So if you take a look now, this is where I am without it even proccing, right? So this goes over the cap. It gives you really robust stats, just like Brass, but it gives you, and it also goes well with a vampire. And you know, if you're in open world, essentially this undeath passive right here reduces your damage taken by up to 33% based on your missing health while you're below 50% health. This is already at max at 68%. So the lower you go, you're essentially double dipping, right? You're double dipping into your defense, which is amazing. So I ultimately think, and I've said this before, I've done a commentary about like brass and all these other sets. So this is what I'm using. I went with too heavy. I'm not really into dodge rolling and all these other things, so my stamina is fine. And so I went. Pariah is unique because it gives you arcane, healthy, and robust. So you can get it in any of those pieces. Then I went. I'm still thinking about these two, but I went Shadowrend. Gives you that recovery, and it also gives you minor maim. So this is what I'm testing. I think I've already gotten a few X and 1vX in this, and I just popped it on today. I'm going Impreg Nern, Impreg Defend, and then Impenetrable. I'm not a blocking person. I only block depending on the situation, and then of course, you know, I don't even have all of my passives in one-handed shield. I will eventually get them, but essentially once I'm here, I'm fine. You know, I'm not into block casting, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. Then your health is robust, right? You're at 27 back bar, 25 this way. I also added a stam glyph here. Just when you're on your back bar, you have to break free and all of those other things. So essentially, this is what it is that I'm running. My Mundus, of course, is the Atro, which mother is potent, and yeah. So these are the things that, like, these are the setups I've been running. And just remember, like, as a Templar, your game is the long game. Your game is not the burst game. You are not a Nightblade. You are not a Sork. Well, you're not a Sork. You know, pre Murkmire. It's a little bit different. I'll do a commentary about where Sorks are right now. Your game is the long game. Yes, this is a burst heal, but if you can have ways to get yourself into situations where you're getting that massive heal. So just keep that in mind, that it's a burst heal, and it's not a heal over time. So, like, your major issue is not staying alive. Your major issue is going offensive versus defense, like, seamlessly. And that's the playstyle. If you can manage that, then everything is fine. Now, if you can't, that's where the problem comes in. And the thing is, you don't really want to fight in the open. That's just not the thing you need to do. You should always try to get line of sight, or just have some kind of obstruction where you can, you know, get in and out of situations. And elusiveness comes in handy. And sometimes as Templars, you know, and I play multiple classes, right? But I'm just saying, as a Templar, you get lulled into this belief of invincibility, that you can't get bursted because of this heal. But why do that when you can, you know, you can play that long game? And I'm not saying play, you know, try to stay in a fight forever, but you can play in the long game so you can pick and choose when to go offensive. I also went with bats and just testing it. I don't know what it is that I'll use, but bats comes in handy. The reason I use it is because it gets these Nightblades out of stealth, or when they attempt to go back into stealth, it really, you know, it's a rude awakening for them. And so these are the things that I've been running on my Magicka Templar. And just think about what I said. It's not a class that's there to burst. It's accumulated, like, it's an accumulation of attacks. A Templar is not going to kill you with jabs. A Templar is not going to kill you with, it won't kill you with sweep. It won't kill you with shot clench. It won't kill you with reflective light. It's like an amalgamation of all of these things. These are the things that kill you. and then you have to find ways of how to like apply that kind of situation, and that's the playstyle. But like I said, the hardest thing to do is to go seamlessly from offense to defense. Like, work out what works for you, and like what's your health threshold. If you know if you have 50% health, you can still go on, then go ahead. Some Templars can go at 40, at 30. You know, it all depends on what you want. I mean, with this setup, you can, because Pariah is stout. You have the undeath passive, and you have a burst heal, and you're also an Argonian. So just keep all of those variables, and you know, try to put them together, and you'll eventually get to a point where you feel comfortable going at certain health levels, and then you can just reset the fight. Anyway, it's the one only despotic. Wow, this is the one and only despotic. Deuces.